there is enough evidence to warrant serious investigations of the Clinton Foundation, and there is evidence that, in addition to this, that the Clinton Foundation investigations that may have been taking place during the Obama administration were suppressed by the Justice Department.
Wow. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton sounding off the alarm on the Clinton Foundation as House Republicans examine new allegations of pay-to-play while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Here with more of his testimony is Tom Fitton. Tom, what's new about this?
Well, what's new is that Congress is actually doing a hearing on the Clinton Foundation. Many of these allegations came up as a result of Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act litigation that exposed the secret email system, showing that you had these pay-to-play activities taking place in August of 2016. And then yesterday's hearing saw new witnesses come forward who have pursued a separate investigation. They've talked to insiders at the Clinton Foundation who have raised concerns about the way it was run. And also that the Justice Department at least has asked for the information that they've gathered. I don't know if that means much in the end. I mean, you kind of see what's happening here. You had the Justice Department ambushing General Flynn while, as has been highlighted repeatedly, the same Justice Department was making sure the FBI wasn't investigating the Clinton Foundation in any serious way.
Well, number one, when she lost power and when she lost the election, man, did the Clinton Foundation pay the price. They earned $62.9 million in 2016. They raised it, I should say. In 2017, that went down to 26.6. That's a 58% decrease. Well, it's logical, some would say, because she lost power and she lost leverage. So what do you say to people who just say, well, she's out of power, you know, they just lost a little bit of momentum?
Well, she, isn't out of power in the sense she's still a political figure. But I'd be interested to know where the drop in donations came off. Was it the foreign governments who were supplying money to the Clinton Foundation during her tenure at the State Department? Did they stop giving because they didn't see an interest in doing so anymore? It's just as a further indication the Clinton Foundation was an influence factory and a platform for the Clinton brand to allow her to run for president. And the public corruption angle there is you had foreign money like the Russians trying to get a good result on the Uranium One decision, and other foundation donors with sketchy past, both foreign and domestic,
right,
using the foundation to get favors from the Clinton State Department. The State Department ought to be looking at what went on. The Justice Department ought to be looking at what went on, and obviously DOJ and FBI. And it's frankly shameful that Judicial Watch has had to carry the load on our shoulders.
No, it's been all you. And it started really the Clinton Cash book with Peter Schweitzer and Steve Bannon. Right. And then you guys have built and got into detail. But Jeff Sessions had no interest. We'll see if William Barr will, if he in fact gets okayed. Tom, always great talking to you. Thanks so much.
President Trump reacting to Obamacare ruling, writing, "As I predicted all along, Obamacare has been struck down as an unconstitutional disaster. Now Congress must pass a strong law that provides great health care and protects pre-existing conditions. Mitch and Nancy, get it done." Joining me now with reaction, Florida Congressman Gates and Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Now, Congressman Biggs, I served with these two gentlemen in the 115th Congress. It's good to have you on tonight. I do appreciate this. I want to start with Andy Biggs. The Republicans are soon to be in the minority of the House. How do you keep all of these Republican-led investigations going, or are they just going to be dismissed and they're done with it?
Well, the only way we can really keep them going, since they're going to pull the plug on us from the Democrat side, is to use the investigations that they've promised that they're going to open up to our advantage. And so we see things like the OGR hearing, the subcommittee hearing, where we start looking at what was going on today with the Clinton Foundation investigation. And guess what? Huber wasn't there again. So one of our responsibilities is going to keep pushing the DOJ to make sure they respond, even if it's the Democrats that are holding hearings on the Trump administration or other Trump officials. We have to demand the DOJ and FBI provide transparency in the documents, because I think when those come out, we're going to find that, just as we see in the Clinton Foundation scandal, that there's ample evidence of, pay-for-play, misuse of funds, commingling of funds.
Yeah, and this is an important thing in the cohesiveness that can be there between the House and the Senate and working together, because in the Senate they are in the majority. But Matt Gaetz, you've been instrumental, you've been aggressive in these investigations. What do you think has to happen next?
Well, Andy Biggs just laid out how Huber did not show up to the oversight hearing, so we don't know if he's doing his job or not. What we do know is that Congress isn't doing its job. Jim Comey is coming back in on Monday, and that really is, I think, a smoke screen. We want Rosenstein. We're hungry for Rosenstein, and our leadership is feeding us Jim Comey bite by bite. The reason we need to hear from Rosenstein is because he knows about this plan to wiretap the president and potentially remove him from office.
But why hasn't he come up? I mean, you've been calling for this.
I can tell you why.
Why?
I can tell you why. Our leadership knows that the first question we're going to ask Rosenstein is which members of the cabinet he was speaking to potentially invoke the 25th Amendment and run the president out of town. And some of those people may still be serving in the cabinet, and I think that they're doing everything they can to make sure that in the final days of Republican control, we can't ask Rosenstein who he was talking to and who he was scheming with to undermine and potentially end the presidency of Donald Trump. I want those answers. The American people want those answers. And by the way, Jason, your book, The Deep State, lays the premise, lays the foundation for the fact that this stuff actually happens. But with the Democrats in charge, we're not going to get the answers. And that's why we need to have Rosenstein before the Republican-controlled Judiciary Committee.
And Andy, who else, Congressman Biggs, I should say.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good, Jason.
That's what we always call each other. We are there in the halls of Congress. Right. But nevertheless, what else can you do in these last few weeks? Is there anything else that the Congress can actually do to get accountability in the last few weeks?
Well, Matt's exactly right. And we have to a request, push, everything that we've been doing, Matt and I have been doing literally for over a year to get Rosenstein in there. If we can get Rosenstein in there, we can start answering some questions. And then from there, then we have to rely on the Senate. The Senate's going to have to continue. We're going to have to continue by pushing the holes in the Democrat.
Do you believe?
The last 2 weeks, yeah, it's going to be tough.
Do you believe there should be a second special prosecutor?
Of course there should be,
yes,
Jason. And,
yes.
I mean,
yeah.
and think about it.
You know what? I tell you what, both these gentlemen are in favor of the second special prosecutor. I need to ask you about a former colleague of ours, the congressman from South Carolina, Mick Mulvaney, who's the head of the Office of Management and Budget, today being tapped by President Trump to be the deputy chief of staff. Your thoughts on Mick Mulvaney? Let's start with Congressman Gaetz.
I met with Mick Mulvaney actually over at the White House today. We were talking about other budget matters. But look, Mick Mulvaney is a workhorse. He knows these spending issues inside and out. He also understands the intricacies of the oversight process that you previously led, Jason. So having Mick Mulvaney by the president's side during these difficult times shows the importance of a wartime consigliere. Mick's going to do a great job. I think the president made a great choice. And I'm excited that we've got a true movement conservative, someone who really believes in the conservative movement and believes in the president, fighting alongside our president for the great agenda for the country.
Your thoughts, Andy Biggs, on Mick Mulvaney as deputy chief of staff?
Well, I think he's smart, he's articulate, and one of the things I love about Mick is that he doesn't suffer fools gladly. He's going to tell it like it is and make sure the work gets done. And he's also, as Matt said, a movement conservative. He's going to go with the president's line. He's going to help the president achieve his agenda. And we need that.
I got to tell you, my own experience with Mick Mulvaney, he is tenacious. He's this tenacious Irishman. He did serve with me on the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He is an expert in the numbers, heading up the Office of Management and Budget. He had the support of the Speaker and a lot of others. He's very close with the whole delegation there for the South Carolina delegation. He ran for the Republican Study Committee, a committee that was chaired by Jim Jordan, by Mike Pence, by others, and he lost to a guy named Bill Flores. But nevertheless, I think a lot of people have really appreciated Mick, and I think we're all excited to see him as the chief of staff to the president. He will, I think, bring a lot of conservative voice there to the Congress. But Congressman, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday night.
There is enough evidence to warrant serious investigations of the Clinton Foundation, and there is evidence that, in addition to this, that the Clinton Foundation investigations that may have been taking place during the Obama administration were suppressed by the Justice Department.
Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton testifying as part of the House Oversight Committee's hearing to examine accusations of pay-to-play at the Clinton Foundation. Tom Fitton joins me now with more. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time. You had a busy day yesterday. You were there on Capitol Hill. Tell us about it.
Well, it was better late than never by Republicans in Congress who held this hearing finally about the Clinton Foundation, which was a vehicle in many ways for foreign nationals and foreign governments to influence the Secretary of State. You know, when she was put forward as Secretary of State, there were concerns about what was going on with the foundation and Bill Clinton's speeches. They said, don't worry about it. We'll have this ethics process. Mrs. Clinton won't be involved in the Clinton Foundation at all as Secretary of State. And our document requests found that wasn't the case. We found the emails on her secret email server that showed that the foundation almost immediately began asking for favors on behalf of donors, including foreign leaders. And the Justice Department supposedly began investigating that in 2016 as a result of our disclosures. But all the reports are from that, including in the recent IG report, was that the Justice Department actually suppressed the FBI investigation into it.
Tom, this has been going on for a long time. You mentioned 2016. The drop in donations also is evident. If you compare it to 2016, the foundation took in over $26 million in donations, and then there's been a 58% drop down in 2017 to $26 million. Someone who was not there yesterday, I wanted to ask you about, U.S. Attorney John Huber. Why was he not there?
That's a good question. The Justice Department has been frozen over the last 2 years or so on all these Clinton-related issues and hyper-focused on targeting President Trump. You know, there's evidence you had a bunch of Russian money, millions of dollars in Russian money, flow into the foundation and into the personal coffers of the Clintons in order to guarantee a positive result on uranium-1. Where is this Justice Department? They're investigating the specious Russia collusion allegations against the Trump campaign, but the Russia influence operation that benefited the Clintons directly and personally, AWOL.
And you had ties to Russian banks with the Podesta brothers, correct?
Oh, sure. You had Tony Podesta, who was working with Manafort, which is a separate issue. And then Mr. Podesta, John Podesta, who was close to Mrs. Clinton, had business relationships with the Russians as well. But as I said, this Justice Department, whether it be the deep state or whatever, it's all about getting President Trump and protecting Hillary Clinton. And it's about time this Clinton Foundation come up for review. And I'm glad this hearing took place because most Americans don't know about this corruption that's been uncovered as it relates to the Clintons. We had these two other witnesses yesterday testify. I listened to their testimony. They've talked to insiders at the Clinton Foundation that have concerns. And one of the conclusions I drew and the conclusions they drew was that maybe the Clinton Foundation should have been registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which again is being used to target and harass President Trump and his team. But again, the Clintons get a pass.
So they were not registered?
They were not, but they were acting on behalf of foreign governments, it looks like, and Rich raises questions about whether the law should have applied to them.
You know, Tom, I know that this is the first show that you're able to be on following your testimony from yesterday. Do you expect the other mainstream media to be talking about this today at all? Because they should be.
Oh, it's doubtful. The key thing is that the Justice Department hasn't acted yet. The other witnesses yesterday suggested the FBI may be interested in some of the information they have. They haven't communicated with us about the emails that we've uncovered. But unless the Justice Department acts, the media is going to have an excuse not to do anything.
Do you expect the Justice Department will?
I think the president is going to have to ask them directly to do so because they're not going to do it on their own. It's now been a year and as I was pointing out, almost 2 years of the Trump administration. As long as Robert Mueller is running the show at the Justice Department, it's going to be all about getting Trump. We need more competent folks at the leadership of the Justice Department to get the justice that the American people have been demanding for years now on the Clinton gang.
All right. Tom Fitton, Trying to get it under control. Thank you so much. You've been leading on this from the beginning. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.